isn't any trouble just to rest in my It isn't any trouble just to rest in my Whenever you're in trouble, it will vanish like a bubble if you only take the trouble just to rest in my And when I smile, I feel joy. You feel joy?
Yeah.
I got the joy, 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 joy down in my heart.
Where?
Down in my heart.
Where?
Down in my heart. I got the joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Down in my heart to stay. And I'm so happy, so very happy. I've got the love of Jesus in my heart. And I'm so happy, so very happy. I've got the love of Jesus in my heart. I got that peace that passes understanding down in my heart. Down in my heart. Down in my heart. I got the peace that passes understanding down in my heart. Down in my heart to stay. And I'm so happy, so very happy. I've got the love of Jesus in my heart. And I'm so happy, so very happy. I've got the love of Jesus in my heart. And if that devil doesn't like it, he can sit on attack. Sit on attack. Sit on attack. And if the devil doesn't like it, he can sit on attack. Sit on attack to stay. And I'm so happy, so very happy. I've got the love of Jesus in my heart. And I'm so happy, so very happy. I've got the love of Jesus in my heart. Our God is amazing, and He has done some wonderful things. He has created this whole world for us, this whole universe. Isn't that awesome? Just for us. My God is so big, so strong, and so mighty. There's nothing my God cannot do. My God is so big, so strong, and so mighty. There's nothing my God cannot do. The valleys are His, the mountains are His, the stars are His handiwork too. My God is so big, so strong, and so mighty. There's nothing my God cannot do. That's right. He is awesome, isn't He? Do we know a song about that? You don't? I think that's it. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God, He is awesome. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. And He's got the whole world in His hands. And if He can hold the whole world in His hands, what does that mean? He keeps us in His hands. He's got the whole world 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 in His hands. Who's He got in His hands, Brooks? That's right, the little bitty babies. In His hands, He's got the little bitty babies. In His hands, He's got the little bitty babies. In His hands, He's got the whole world in His hands. He's got everybody in Maysville. In His hands, He's got everybody in Maysville. In His hands, He's heading off to our classes. We would start with the babies tonight, but they're not sitting on their row. I don't know what happened.
Oh, one baby sitting on that row.
That's right.
My brother.
So since the babies are not in here tonight, we'll start with the 3 and 4-year-olds. Y'all go ahead and you go to your class. And remember, tiptoe, tiptoe in God's house. Tiptoe, tiptoe in God's house. Tiptoe, tiptoe in God's house. Tiptoe very quietly. All right, who's next? Who's next? Oh, yes, us. Who is us? Kindergartner and first graders. Yeah. Are y'all like 12 and 13? No?
5 and 6.
5 and 6. I was close. Tiptoe, tiptoe in God's house. Tiptoe, tiptoe in God's house. Tiptoe, tiptoe in God's house. Tiptoe very quietly. Quietly or softly? I like to change it every time. Either quietly and softly mean the same thing? All right, what do we got here? 2nd and 3rd graders, the 19 and 20-year-olds. Tiptoe, tiptoe in God's house. Tiptoe, tiptoe in God's house. Tiptoe, tiptoe in God's house. Tiptoe very quiet. All right, the college age. Okay, now Charles' row.
And we're on, I hope. Good evening. We got one more song to go. Come on, John. We are talking about Out of This World tonight. We have been all week in favor of the VBS curriculum, and what an interesting thought to be addressing things that are out of this world. John's going to lead us in a song do you recognize as an out of this world song?
527. He said, pick your favorite song out about heaven, and this is it. 527, verses 1 and 3. Had to travel through life with trouble and strife, and a glorious hope to get there on the way to my door will be yours, and I rest on that shore where the night has been turned into day. Up in the beautiful paradise, hiding on the side of the river of life. Up in the valley, the wonderful valley, we free from all pain and all strife. There we shall live in the
Our time is shorter tonight than is typical for our Wednesday evenings, so we will have to be adjusting for that. Our kiddos are going to come back in at the normal time. We're going to get a bell in a little bit, and they are going to spend their evening talking about Jesus, and so are we. Out of this world. What an interesting thought. I've got several groups of texts from Scripture that we're going to consider this evening. And we're going to start in the book of Matthew, chapter 22. So, Matthew 22. And we'll start reading in verse 23 in just a moment. The same day, the Sadducees, who say there is no resurrection, came to him and asked him, saying, Teacher, Moses said that if a man dies having no children, his brother shall marry his wife and raise up offspring for his brother. Now there were with us 7 brothers. The first died after he had married, and having no offspring, left his wife to his brother. Likewise the second also, and the third, even to the 7th. Last of all, the woman died also. Therefore, in the resurrection, whose wife of the 7 will she be? For they all had her. Jesus answered and said to them, You are mistaken, not knowing the Scriptures, nor the power of God. For in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like the angels of God in heaven. But concerning the resurrection of the dead, have you not read what was spoken to you by God, saying, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. That's a very interesting passage. Think about that for a minute. If someone was going to ask you a question about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, what would your thoughts be regarding where they are? If we were talking historically, wouldn't you say they are dead? Did Abraham die? I'm pretty sure I've got a record that talks about Abraham dying. 175 years old, an old man full of years. Did Isaac die? Oh yeah. Isaac died. Jacob die? Oh yes. We have a great record of Jacob's death in the concluding chapters of the book of Genesis. And he called all of his sons in and blessed them and gave them information regarding what was going to take place in their lives. Where are they? In honor of our theme tonight, if I ask you where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are, your answer would be out of this world. Out of this world. They are not in this world anymore. They are out of this world. I'm not sure it's a common phrase anymore, but I remember growing up that if someone asked about some place that was truly phenomenal, some great restaurant, or maybe it's your vacation, how was your vacation? Oh, it was out of this world. Now, you meant that figuratively, not literally. What you meant by that is it was wonderful. It was divine. It was beyond what normally we experience, and it was fantastic. So if we are looking at Jesus' statement here, that God is not the God of the dead, God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. Could you prove to me that Abraham is alive from Scripture? And if so, where would you go? Your direction might be different than mine. I'd begin here with the statement that Jesus made. My next stop would be in Luke 16. And we're going to start in verse 19. Luke 16, 19. There was a certain rich man who was clothed in purple and fine linen and fared sumptuously every day. But there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, full of sores, who was laid at his gate, desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores, so it was that the beggar died and was carried by the angels to where? Abraham's bosom. Okay, now what happened to Lazarus? He died and was carried by the angels to Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died and was buried. And being in torments, in Hades, he lifted up his eyes and saw Abraham far off and Lazarus in his bosom. Then he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus that he may dip the tip of his tongue in water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. But Abraham said, Son, remember that in your lifetime you received your good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things, but now he is comforted and you are tormented. And then he describes the great gulf, and the conversation regarding the brothers follows as well. And then we come up to verse 29. Abraham said to him, they have Moses and the prophets, let them hear them. Suppose you offer into evidence Luke chapter 16. Abraham is alive because of the story that Jesus tells in Luke chapter 16. What objection might people offer regarding this text in Luke 16? Okay. Is Jesus describing something literal, or is this a parable? What's the difference in a story that's told literally and a story that's told as a parable? Well, you would say the parable is not intended to be interpreted as a literal event. It is a parable. Okay. This question for you. Is the parable true to life? In order to be valuable to us, it has to be true to life, right? It has to be possible. It has to be in the realm of possibility, of what is normal, what is reasonable with the power of God. So if Jesus told the story of the rich man and Lazarus, and this is just make-believe, then it really doesn't make any difference. The fact that it has value is that it is in the realm of possibility. It is either an absolute story about Abraham as he exists now, or it is conceivable that is the case. Either way, what must be the case in regard to Abraham? He's alive. Because if Abraham's dead, the story means nothing. It has no value whatsoever. Not only is he alive, where is he? Cue the flashcards. He is out of this world. Thank you. It's not really necessary that we know where Abraham is per se. He is not here in this world. He is in another place. We would perhaps describe from the discussion here in Luke chapter 16, typically, the Hadean realm. That is the place of the dead, the unseen. Hades is not a nice word for hell. Hell is a place of torture and torment. Heaven is the place of greatness where God lives. And sometimes, especially in the younger ones, Hades was used as a nice way to say the word hell. Not so. Hades is the place of the dead, the unseen, and it has both paradise and torment in the place of Hades, the unseen place. All right, that's the second place I would go. Here's the third. Matthew chapter 8. Now, it's conceivable someone would say, well, yeah, but, Luke 16, that's the parable type setting, and that might or might not be acceptable as something that is real and immediate and true to life. And I'd argue with that, but okay. How about Matthew chapter 8, verse 5? When Jesus had entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him pleading with him, saying, Lord, my servant is lying at home paralyzed, dreadfully tormented. And Jesus said to him, I will come and heal him. The centurion answered and said, Lord, I am not worthy that you should come under my roof, but only speak a word, and my servant will be healed. For I also am a man under authority, having soldiers under me. And I say to this one, go, and he goes. To another, come, and he comes. And to my servant, do this, and he does it. When Jesus heard it, he marveled and said to those who followed, Assuredly I say to you, I have not found such great faith, not even in Israel. Now verse 11. And I say to you, that many will come from east and west and do what? You're reading now in Matthew chapter 8, verse 11. Many will come from east and west, and they will do what? They will sit down with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, how will they do that? What is necessary for you to sit down? You might say, well, you have to be standing up. No, not necessarily. But is it necessary for you to be alive in order to sit down? Do dead people sit down? No. So the description of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is that they are alive, that they are accessible, and that people will sit down with them. And not just any people, the common people. That people that Jesus has association with that will come to the kingdom, they will be in the presence of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But many of those who are part of Israel will not. Rest of it. The sons of the kingdom will be cast out into outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Now, in this particular place, we are not going to follow up on the story of the centurion here. Jesus is describing another world, and in that other world, in that place, who is there? Well, there may be many there, but we know Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Who else is there? While I'm turning to Luke chapter 23, and you can do that as well, I heard about a young lady who was being accosted in a college class, and she was telling the professor was making fun of her because she said she was a believing Christian. And he said, so you think you're going to see a man by the name of Moses? And she said, yes. And you think you're going to be able to talk to him like a real person? And she said, yes. And so he said, well, what if he's not there? And she says, then you can talk to him. Luke chapter 23. There's an interesting story. We don't have time for the total story. Let's pick up in verse 39. One of the criminals who were hanged blasphemed him, saying, "If you are the Christ, save yourself and us." The other answering rebuked him, saying, "Do you not even fear God, seeing you are under the same condemnation, and we justly, for we receive the due reward of our deeds? But this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said to Jesus, "Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus said to him, are you ready now for verse 43? Luke 23, 43. Jesus said to him, "Assuredly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise." Today. Did the thief on the cross die? We don't have a record of the thief on the cross dying, but yes, he died. The soldiers came to break the legs of the thieves so that they would die, so that they would not be left on the cross into the holy days that were coming. They came to the legs of Jesus to break his legs, and he was already dead. How do we know that the thief died? Because Jesus told him he was going to be in paradise with him that day. Ponder that for a minute. I don't think that most of us would probably like to put ourselves in the imagination of hanging on a cross. The thoughts of that are beyond what most of us are interested in connecting our minds to. But there are a lot of times when we do things where we are in a particular location and we are going to do something else soon. A couple of weeks ago, on a Wednesday morning early, Libby and I got on a plane out here in Huntsville, and when we got off the airplane several hours later, we were in New Jersey. You might call that another world. We were in one place, and a little while later we were in another place. We have no trouble understanding that. You say, but you were in the same world. Exactly right. What Jesus describes here, Luke 16, Lazarus died. If it's a parable, by the way, how many parables are there that you read where the individuals are named? Lazarus and Abraham are named in the parable. That is not typical. If that is the case, this is the only parable we have of Jesus where these individuals are named. I would argue it's not a parable. It's a story of record. But rich man died. He is in torment. How soon? Same day. Lazarus dies. He is in paradise. How soon? The angels carried him from one place to another. I don't know the transport process. When we think of death, we see an end. Because all we see is the one side. We don't get to see the arrival and the departure and the events on the other side. We only see the one side. If you've ever sent anybody off to the airport, you remember back in the day, I'm going to really date myself here. Do you remember when you could go to an airport and you could see your family off to the very gate? I mean, like you could walk them to the door where the very last door that separated you from them was when they walked down the little chute to get on the plane. You went right there to that spot. I miss those days. I don't like to have to say goodbye on this side of security before they go through the screening and have to take off their belt and their shoes. At any rate, if you were there, you watched them get on, you saw them go, and sometimes there are people there, they're crying, they are tearful. Why? Because they think the people are dead or dying? No. because they're going away. You're not going to see them for whatever period of time, maybe a week, a day, a month, maybe a year, maybe they're going somewhere where they're going to stay a long time. But you know they're not dead. You watch them go. If you're there in the old days when you were waiting for someone to come, you'd wait at the gate and you'd line up maybe where you could peer down the little chute, and see the heads as they were coming up, bobbing along. And I've waited for my dad at several locations like that, and all the kids straining to see who gets the first shot. There he is. And here they come. Goings and comings. Doesn't bother us a bit. You're going to go to another world. You're going to go to another world. We only get to see the one side. We don't get to see the other side. If you got to see the other side, if you got to see if you got the bird's eye view and you were back here and you watched the death take place and you watched the angels who would claim the soul of the saint who had died and carried them, transported them to the place where God was, do you think our view of death would be different? This world is all we can see. We have limited vision to this world only. But wouldn't it be great to be able to see the other world? To know that there's more than that. You heard about the old guy who had never been to a mall before, country fellow, and he was downstairs and he was watching. He'd never seen an elevator. He grew up in the sticks, and a couple of the older women went and got on the elevator, and it went up, and the doors closed, and a couple of minutes later, the doors opened, and there were 2 young women stepped off that elevator. Old women got in, young women got off. He punched his son and said, "Go get your mother." What if there was a place, there was a way for you to pass through something and find yourself in another world, transformed, new, with God? Would that be an interesting thing? Out of this world. Where did Enoch go? John, you talked about Enoch. Did you say where Enoch went? You didn't do Enoch? Not at all? All right, Elijah. Where did Elijah go? Where did he go? Out of this world. Out of this world. Into what world? The very fact that we have a discussion of this world, doesn't that describe that there is another world? Gospel of John, chapter 8. Verse 23. Start back in verse 21. Jesus said to them again, "I am going away, and you will seek me, and will die in your sins. Where I go, you cannot come." Where was Jesus going? Q. Jesus was going out of this world. To where was he going? He was going to be with the Father. He was leaving from where he is and he was going somewhere else. Interestingly, he says, "You can't go where I'm going." There was a place. It was a where. It was a where, and it was a when, and it was a who. Jesus was going to be the who. He was going. He was going when? When was Jesus going to wherever it was he was going? When he died. But he doesn't describe that. He describes the go. I'm going to a place. You can't come. Verse 22, so the Jews said, will he kill himself because he says, where I go, you cannot come? They weren't as far off as might think. He said to them, you are from beneath, I am from above. You are of this world. I am not of this world. Have we ever had any aliens on planet Earth? Yes, we have. Who might one be? There were how many who came to see Abraham when the angels were going to go and check on Lot and Sodom? 3 men came and visited. Were they of this world? No, they were not. What world were they of? They were of another world. They were from out of this world. So if they did not belong to this world, what were they? They were aliens. Alien means you don't belong here. Did they belong here? No, they didn't. Did they come from here? No, they didn't. Were they human? No, they weren't. Was Jesus human? Oh, yes, Jesus was human. Jesus was human. Was Jesus alien? Jesus is a very unique discussion because he has... John R.W. Stott wrote a book and he described it Between Two Worlds. And it is a discussion about Christianity, and it describes us as living not of this world, but in this world, and going to another world. The world of God, the world of eternity, the world of spiritual life, of God's eternal state. Here we're in a temporary state. There things are eternal. Paul says in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, we want to get rid of what is temporary so that we can have what is eternal. We want to get out of, moves into chapter 5, we want to get out of this tent, this body, this flesh, because it's temporary, and we want to get into a place that is immortal. We want to get into a place that is eternal, that has always existence. It's not in this world. It's not of this world. It's of another world. And Jesus is ready to go. I am not of this world. Forward a little bit, 10 chapters. John chapter 18. Pilate, verse 33, entered the praetorium, called Jesus, said to him, are you the king of the Jews? Jesus answered and said, are you speaking for yourself about this, or did others tell you concerning me? Pilate answered, am I a Jew? Your own nation and the chief priests have delivered you to me. What have you done? Jesus' response, John 18:36, my kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would fight so that I should not be delivered to the Jews. But now my kingdom is not from here. Jesus understood he was not of this world. You know who else isn't? We're open to John 18. Let's turn back to John 17. Verse 6. I've manifested your name to the men whom you have given me out of this world. They were yours. You gave them to me, and they have kept your word. Now they have known all things which you have given to me are from you. For I have given to them the words which you have given to me, and they have received them, and have known surely that I came forth from you, and they have believed that you sent me. I pray for them. I do not pray for the world, but for those whom you have given me, for they are yours. Verse 11. Now I am no longer in the world, but these are in the world. And I come to you, Holy Father. Keep through your name those whom you have given me, that they may be one as we are one. While I was with them in the world, I kept them in your name. Those whom you gave me I have kept, and none of them is lost except the son of perdition, that the scripture might be fulfilled. But now I come to you, and these things I speak in the world, that they may have my joy fulfilled in themselves. I have given them your word, and the world has hated them, because they are not of the world, just as I am not of the world. I do not pray, verse 15, that you should take them out of the world, but that you should keep them from the evil one. They are not of the world, just as I am not of the world. Was Jesus in the world? Yes, he was. At least that's where he is while he's in connection with mankind. Did he begin in the world? No, he didn't. That's the beauty of John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. The Word was God. That Jesus was somewhere else. And he became flesh. He started there, and he went somewhere else. And I hear the children getting closer. It's like they're sneaking up on us. There you go. John 13:1 is going to have to be our last discussion point. John 13:1. Now before the feast of the Passover, when Jesus knew that his hour had come, that he should depart from this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. Is that a marvelous passage or what? Here's Jesus. He's in the world. Where is he going? He's going back to his Father. He doesn't belong here. He came here. But he is out of this world. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed the time that we've had for Vacation Bible School. And they have done some marvelous things in the building. And I hope we get to credit them appropriately. Thank you for your time and attention.
Well, we've had a great week at VBS. We've learned about some great characters. We learned about Enoch, didn't we, guys? What was about Enoch?
He did not die.
He did not die, did he? He walked with God and was not. And we can see in the life of Enoch that if we walk with God, then we can be with him one day. And then we learned about Elijah. What happened to Elijah? He did a lot of great things through God. What happened to Elijah at the end?
He went into a whirlwind.
Yeah, that's right. Chariot of fire came, and he went into a whirlwind, and God took him to heaven. So if we are like Elijah, and we allow God to use our hands and our feet, and be messengers for him, and live for him, we can be in heaven. Now, who did you learn about tonight? Greater than Enoch? Greater than Elijah?
God.
Jesus, right? And Jesus came and he died for us. But he didn't stay in the grave, did he? No, he didn't. He rose. And in fact, he ascended into heaven and is sitting at the right hand of God. Now, if we're like Jesus, if we're like Enoch, if we're like Elijah, we too can be out of this world. And doesn't that fire you up? This world isn't our home. And the hope of tomorrow with him forever. So, with that, will you sing this song? Get right, church, and let's go home. Get right, church, and let's go home. Get right, church. Get right, church. Get right, church, and let's go home. I'm going home the morning train. I'm going home the morning train. I'm going home, you know that I'm going home. I'm going home the morning train. That evening train might be too late. Evening train might be too late. Evening train, know that evening train. Evening train might be too late. So back train and get your load. Back train and get your load. Back train. Back train and get your load. So get right, church, and let's go home. Get right, church, and let's go home. Get right, church, and get right, church. Get right, church, and let's go home. I'm gonna sing, sing, sing. I'm gonna shout, shout, shout. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna shout. Praise the Lord. When those gates are open wide, I'm gonna sit at Jesus' side. I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna shout. Praise the Lord. And I wanna see Micah up there. I wanna see Micah up there. Praise the Lord. When those gates are open wide, I'm gonna sit at Jesus' side. I wanna see Micah up there. Praise the Lord. Now I wanna see Maddie up there. I wanna see Maddie up there. Praise the Lord. When those gates are open wide, I'm gonna sit at Jesus' side. I wanna see Maddie up there. Praise the Lord. Now I wanna see all y'all up there. I wanna see all y'all up there. Praise the Lord. When those gates are open wide, I wanna sit at Jesus' side. And I wanna see all you up there. Praise the Lord. How do we do it? How do we get there? How do we know what to do? We got to read, study, and then obey, right? And then we got to let our Christian light shine in this world. This little Christian light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little Christian light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little Christian light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine all the time, let it shine. Don't let Satan get out, I'm gonna let it shine. Don't let Satan get out, I'm gonna let it shine. Don't let Satan get out, I'm gonna let shine all the time, let it shine. And all around the universe, I'm gonna let it shine. All around the universe, I'm gonna let it shine. All around the universe, I'm gonna let it shine all the time, let it shine. All right, we gotta stand up for this next song. Stand up, stand up. Stand up, stand up. I may never march in the infantry, ride in the cavalry, shoot the artillery. I may never fly over the enemy, but I'm in the Lord's army.
Yes, sir!
I'm in the Lord's army.
Yes, sir!
I'm in the Lord's army.
Yes, sir!
I may never march in the infantry, ride in the cavalry, shoot the artillery. I may never fly over the enemy, but I'm in the Lord's army.
Yes, sir!
All right, be seated. So rise and shine and give God the glory, glory. Rise and shine and give God the glory, glory.
Rise and shine and give God the glory, glory,
Children of the Lord. That's such a good song. Okay, y'all can be seated. This little Christian light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little Christian light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little Christian light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine all the time, let it shine. So rise and shine and give God the glory, glory. Rise and shine and give God the glory, glory.
Rise and shine and give God the glory, glory,
Children of the Lord. All right. Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. For the Father up above is looking down in love. So be careful, little eyes, what you see. Be careful, little mouth, what you say. Be careful, little mouth, what you say. For the Father up above is looking down in love. So be careful, little mouth, what you say. And be careful, little feet, where you go. Be careful, little feet, where you go. For the Father up above is looking down in love. So be careful, little feet, where you go. You can tell who's been here this week at VBS because they're still standing. Okay? That's good. That's good. Always rise and shine for Jesus. Okay? Will you pray with me? And then we'll sing one more song. Our Father in heaven, we're so thankful for you. We're thankful for your Son. We're thankful for the hope and the opportunity to one day be out of this world with you. We pray, Father, that you will help us to always search your word, to know how we should live our lives. We're thankful for the church here, and we're thankful for all these young kids. Father, we pray that you will help us guide them to you, and then we'll all be with you in the end. In Jesus' name we pray. All right, one more song. It's the last night of VBS, okay? You've got to do it justice, guys. You've got to bring it, okay? You've got to bring it, okay? If you don't bring it, then all those cookies in those bags go to me, okay? All right? You better bring it, okay? You better bring it. And if you folks in the back would like to join in too, I think you know this one, okay? Steve, I want to hear you. Take a deep breath. What do you think, guys? Do they get to keep their cookies? Yes. No, you don't get to keep them. Thank you guys for coming to VBS this week and supporting it. Y'all have a good week.